Are you stressed out about cash flow? Do you think about cash flow more than you'd like to think about cash flow? Or more importantly, I should ask, do you worry about cash flow more than you'd like to worry about cash flow? Do you feel that inconsistent cash flow really hurts your business? Welcome to the financial services world, especially for reps that are less than 3 or 4 years in the business. There is a solution to that. And I have spent decades teaching it, talking about it, and helping people understand it. It's really important that you do a couple of things, but at the very top of the list is that you've got to create consistent cash flow for your business. And if you look at all the clients that you have, especially those that are small business owners, without consistent cash flow, it's really hard to A, run a successful business, and B, be financially independent yourself. And so as a new advisor who's heavily compensated or entirely compensated by commissions, and you haven't yet built your book of business with consistent revenue and cash flow, this is an intense problem for a lot of reps. So step number one is you have to figure out, how can I make my cash flow consistent? Here is what I did, and here is what I teach. You come up with, at the beginning of a year, a number that you need in your personal life to be able to run your world the way that you need and want to. And let's just use a hypothetical number for now, that is $5,000 a month. And you commit at the very beginning of the year that on the 15th of the month and the 30th of the month, you're going to cut your personal checkbook $2,500. You're not going to take money out of the business when you can and then starve yourself personally when there's no money in the business, because that creates a massive roller coaster, which therefore leads to a ton of stress and a ton of unnecessary anxiety. And so the solution is to fully commit, go all in, and treat your business as a real business and put yourself on a salary. So if that number is $5,000, you're going to cut a check for $2,500 every 2 weeks throughout the entire year. And here's the rule of the game. Not doing it is not an option. Okay, that's an important rule of the game. So now I know what you're probably thinking. Oh yeah, right, Jim. I'd love to do that. I can't. I don't have the cash to do that. Well, here was my solution, and this is the way that I think you can bring some real game-changing differences to your business that'll also help you grow while at the same time bring consistent cash flow and lower your stress and your anxiety. And that is the fact that you got to get a business loan. You have to be able to have a separate business checking account than your personal one. I probably should have started there. I just assumed that's so remedial that everybody's done that. But I've run into a lot of reps in their first couple years that they don't. But you have to have a separate business checking account. Then you have your individual personal checking account. And then to the business account, you must have some sort of credit line at a local bank. Now, when I was 22, 23 years old as a brand new rep, I didn't have the credit worthiness or any assets to back it up. So I had to get my manager to be able to sign for that loan, to be able to make a statement that he believed in me and he would co-sign when I went to the bank so I could get my credit line for, I think at that time in 1990, it was like $10,000. And then what happens is when you have good months, you have good weeks, whatever it is, you don't take extra money out of your account. You let the balance grow and you're constantly taking out the same distribution every 2 weeks. But when you have downturns in your business, you're also taking that distribution out, even if the money's not there, which will happen quite often. And hopefully as time goes by, less often, but it will happen. And what are the benefits of doing that? So the obvious one is consistent cash flow. Now you can run your personal life by making a budget for all of your expenses, for the car you buy, the home you buy, the level of your mortgage, all that kind of stuff. But you can also make personal savings commitments because you know exactly what that revenue is going to be and it doesn't change. So that's the first benefit of it. The second benefit is that we're all resilient to a lot of disappointment, especially if it's just us. And so therefore, We'll spend less money personally if our business is struggling. We'll go a couple payrolls without paying ourselves. We'll starve ourselves, delay a few bills because we're resilient. When you put this plan in force, that's not an option. So trust me, the first time you take that $2,500 distribution and put it in your personal checking account, and you didn't have any cash in your business checking account to take it, and you borrowed it off your credit line, right? And then you do it again, and you do it again, you start to get nervous. And that's a good nervous. That's a professional nervous, because what I have known, what I have learned to be so true is the majority of reps, and when I say majority, I'm saying in excess of 95%, perform to the level that they have to perform in order to make their life work. And so therefore, you need to build your environment that is healthy, that puts you under a situation where your monthly nut, so to speak, is significant enough that you got to go to work and you got to perform. And so you make that number high enough that it is a little bit scary. And now that is your environment, and it is a must, and you have to hit it. And the consequences get worse the longer you go, based on the more money you have to borrow if you're truly not performing. And so I would say that I get all the time, even at 54 years old today, people would look at my production record when I was like 25, and they would say, how could you produce that much when you were 25 years old? And my answer, believe it or not, was because I had to, because that's what it took to make my world go around. And so the last piece of advice I'd have for you on this piece is that my coaching is always around sometime around Thanksgiving, that as you look into the upcoming calendar year, you're constantly taking that number and you're giving yourself a very healthy raise. And that starts on the first payroll in January. So if we were in this current year at 5,000, the next year might go to 7,500. The next year might go to 11,000. The next year might go to 15,000. The next year might go to 20,000 net that you're taking out. And as that number grows, so does your performance, because not hitting it is just not an option. And so what you don't want to make the mistake is live your personal life financially based on whatever your business produces. Because you know what that's doing? That's living in a reactive mode. In other words, I'm going to do the best I can over here in my business, and whatever cash flow it generates, that'll help me dictate what I do personally. That is not healthy, and you will never reach your potential. You have to be in charge of it. It cannot be reactive, it has to be proactive. You start the year and say, this is what my life is going to look like financially. You dictate it. You're in charge. This is what I'm bringing home. And then you make decisions. This is what I would kind of call burning the boats. You make decisions that are in alignment with that, right? And so it becomes not an option. The home you buy, the cars you buy, the amount of life insurance you buy, the amount of contribution you put into your investments, all the things you do in your personal life, the clubs you join, you have those done by what you're going to pay yourself. And most of them are irrevocable. And so it's not an option. And so if I'm going to say, okay, this year I'm giving myself $10,000 a month, and because I'm going to buy this car, I'm going to buy this house, I'm going to join this club, now I have to have $10,000, right? And the cash flow is consistent. So the consistent cash flow helps you more on a personal financial level. It alleviates the stress, but doing the amount that you pay yourself, and as long as it's high enough, also creates an environment that you will live up to, because failure is not an option. And so I just encourage you to take this path. I can't tell you how many reps I've run into that when I first bring this to them, they'll have an aha moment. They'll either tell me or I'll see it in their eyes. Well, they'll say, Jim, I don't pay myself a salary. And you look at their production and they haven't been growing at all. And they make this switch. It's scary. And I watch them a year or two later and they grow tremendously. This can be a game changer. Good luck to you and God bless.